Yo.
Hello.
Hello. How goes
What's going on, folks?
How's everybody doing tonight?
It's lovely Monday.
It is.
It's our first Monday post fishing season. Is that right? No, it's not. That was like the day right after. All right, good start.
It's been a long week.
Kind of feels like now it's not really fishing season is not really over. Our season of, I guess, some of our busier time of the year planning is over, which is good. But hopefully everybody's kind of settling in. I know it's getting a little too cold for my liking, although today was almost 80 degrees, so I assume someone's saying that. But kind of that weird time of year where it's like you start your day in a winter coat and end it in shorts. Really bizarre, but
dude, yesterday 37 degrees in the morning, 73 in the afternoon.
That's crazy.
It was crazy. Like I had to it got so hot so fast that I had to go back to the car and change. Luckily I had a pair of shorts in the car.
I did not. I actually stayed in my overalls, long sleeve and sweatshirt, and I was just like, I'm too busy catching fish. I'm not taking anything off. So I was soaked. I don't know. I should do it more often.
Yeah. So how did that end up yesterday? Pretty good.
Which one?
The fall brawl. Is that what it?
Same guy won. Ben.
Dude, I think that we should drop, or MAKB should drop the limit back down to 12 inches.
Nope.
Just why?
Because it's not competitive. So the purpose was, if you notice, so what happens is people get excited at the beginning of the year, they fish the spring brawl, somebody cracks 500 plus inches, and then the summer brawl you get 6, and then in the fall you get 7.
I think that's just normal how it goes.
No, it's not, because that's not how
I want to know how many people yesterday would have had bigger bags if it was a 12-inch minimum.
There's only a handful of people that do okay, but there's always just a couple that like double what the other people do. So the goal is to try to find a balance where it's competitive. So we upped it to 15-inch minimum, and of course Ben went to this little place, early spring, tiny lake, and put up 500 inches. So I'm like, there we go. Again, summer brawl, 6 people registered because
I see what you're saying. So like it kills it. So people don't think they stand a chance.
And then it just ruins it for everybody else where they don't want to do it, and then again, summer brawl, he did better than everybody else. He put up, I don't know, it wasn't a big limit, 200 something inches, but I think second place had like 100 inches, and that's what happened yesterday. You had 180, he had what, 200, almost 300?
He only had 2 more fish than me.
But he had a lot. Was it that close?
It was that close.
Are you sure?
Just about, yeah.
We believe you.
I lost. So it doesn't matter. Well, I'm not gonna jump into fucking, excuse my language, fish stories.
Whoa, slow down. You had 187. He had 231.75. But there weren't a lot of fish caught. There was only 45.
Yeah, I lost about 40 inches. But anyways, on to the next thing. It's fall. The bite's turned on. We're excited. I think so.
I seem to miss it every year. It's the end of the year.
Hoping to get back out a few times, but we'll see. See how the schedule goes. I got a lot of catching up to do. Speaking of catching up, though, we got some catching up to do with 2 anglers who have had quite the season, and most recently quite the finish in our championship event. So with us tonight, we have Jake Angulas. We have Todd Brothers. If you missed our first interview with Todd, I highly recommend it. Both returning guests to the podcast. Todd was on the very last episode, and I think Jake was on the first. So they're coming together to come to our, well, it's not our last podcast, but kind of our season closing podcast. So that kind of works out.
Right.
What do you think? Hey, guys.
How's it going, gentlemen?
Yes.
That wall of hardware, huh?
Jeez,
Look at that.
Yeah.
We got some that's some different trophies there too, right? Like is the first AOI in there?
No, the first AOI is not down here. It's still upstairs.
Gotcha.
So he's got
That,
some there.
looks like that bureau's bending in a little bit.
Is that on your bed? Is it?
No, it's on.
I was gonna say, dude, you might die.
Like, don't move. Yeah, don't. Awesome. Todd, how are you?
Good. How are you guys?
Good, good. Congratulations on your championship victory again. For those at home who may not be aware, Todd took home the championship. Jake took home Angler of the Year. Congrats to both of you guys. So what do we want to talk about? We'll talk about the championship? Start with the championship?
Yeah, let's do it.
Sorry, handling work stuff.
Oh, that's fine. So first off, let's start with we'll start with the two. I'm just curious what the two of you thought of Candlewood, and if you fished it before, and what you thought about it this time of year, if maybe the tournament wasn't before. So Todd, we'll start with you on this one. Yeah, what your experiences are with Candlewood.
So before this fall, I had never fished Candlewood. When it came out on the schedule to start the season, I was excited because it's about an hour and a half, hour and 40 minutes from my house. So I knew it was definitely a tournament I wanted to make it into. And I heard a lot about how, great of a fishery it is. So I had pre-fished it the weekend prior to the tournament, both days, Saturday, Sunday, and the weekend previous to that. I got out there for one full day, and I struggled. I was trying to, and usually when I go to these fisheries, a lot of them set up to be the deep water, smallmouth type fisheries. So I try to do that with my 2D side imaging and stuff like that. But I just could not make it happen on Candlewood at all. And then I do the search for grass or weeds or anything, and I couldn't find anything as far as that was either. And then I did try a few docks. It wasn't a epic bite or anything like that, but at the end of my pre-fishing, I did realize that I had zero chance of anything if I was going to try to do the deep thing. And the few fish I did catch off docks were all quality fish, a couple 17s and a couple over 19. Because I think in the 3 days of pre-fishing, I caught 6 bass. That was it. So, so that was going to be my strategy going into the tournament. For that day I was just going to hammer as many docks as I could. So,
very cool.
Yep.
That's yeah, it's really neat. It's one of the downsides of this time around. I've never fished Candlewood, so I was kind of like, hearing mixed things about it, but wanted to try it out myself one of these days. I'll have to give it a shot. But Jake, what was it like for you going into this? I think you have experience on Candlewood. I'm sure you do. No, you don't have any.
I've never been,
Okay.
I've never been there. I knew that the carp had eaten most of the grass over the last couple of years, so I knew there wasn't going to be a ton of grass left. Listened to some old podcasts about it going into it, and they're just all talking about the grass fishing and how good it is. And I knew there was not going to be any of that, so scrapped all that information and then showed up and just went looking. I know that there's a lot of big smallmouth in there, so I pretty much knew I was going to chase smallmouth. I tried for largemouth. I couldn't get one to bite. I fished a bunch of docks. I threw a glide bait for miles trying to get a follower. Never saw a follower on the glide bait around the docks. And so I was just like, I'm not going to even mess with docks the whole time I was there. And after that first and second day, I tried for largemouth. And then the third day, I just said, I'm done with this. I'm just going to smallmouth fish. Quickly found a pattern where these fish were set up and quickly started catching them. One of my days, I had like 96. Another day, I had 94. So I caught them pretty good in practice and had a pattern, knew I had to find 2 days worth of fish. So found fish in both the boat ramps that I launched out of, the only 2 boat ramps on the lake. So quickly established there's a okay football jig bite going on. And then there was a lot of big schools of 20 to 30 smallmouth that would just roll up on top of these humps in 20 feet of water. And they'd come up and you'd catch 1 or 2 and then they'd just leave. So like I knew I'd probably run into a school of those throughout my day. It wasn't like they were staying in one spot. They just pull up, you'd catch 1 or 2, and then they would just swim into the abyss. A lot of white perch out there, so that was something to deal with. That they looked a lot like those big schools of smallmouth. And so you kind of had to cast at every school you saw until you found a school of smallmouth. But it's pretty much how I broke it down, was found the depth, and I just repeated that until I found productive areas. And then throughout the day, I'd run into a big school of them. There wasn't many big schools, but when I did find them, they're all 20s or 19s. So they're all good ones.
Dang, okay. What is it? No, what is Candlewood known for? More largemouth or smallmouth?
Definitely the smallmouth.
Smallmouth.
Yeah.
Dang. Well, you guys
Can
got
you
any
mute?
questions? Enjoy it.
Damn it. No, I'm curious. So Jake, he didn't catch anything on dock. So I'm curious to know what you were throwing, Todd. If you were just doing something different.
So I would throw a jig and a creature bait because you had to go super shallow. The 220s I caught I would say maybe they were in 3 feet of water. They were super shallow. And when I rolled up to my first dock tournament morning, the first dock I fished, I caught 12 incher. So that obviously told me that I was doing, even though it was a small one, it was a keeper, it was a bass. It told me that I was doing the right thing. And I know I eyeballed this one dock that was off this point all by itself in pre-fishing. I said, boy, that's got to be a one that there's a good bass on. And that's where I caught the 20 pretty early. And it was just really, I think the key was they were behind either where the walkway entered the dock or they liked the boat lifts. If there was a boat lift in the water, I would stay at it and throw in it 10 times. So in super shallow water again. I don't think I caught a bass in deeper than 6 feet of water all day. And I really didn't, it's not like I hammered them. I think I figured I had 10 bites all day and I landed 7 of them. But 5 of them were the right ones. And when I looked on the Google Earth after, I estimated I fished probably 70 to 80 docks throughout the day. I mean, it was just, once I started it, I had a little lull during the middle of the day where I went 4 hours, I think, and I had 1 bite. And normally I would have spiraled and tried to do something different. I would have changed. But I stayed committed to the dock thing because that was really the only thing I had. And I just kept looking for it. And then I had fished these 2 coves where I got the first 3, including the 220s, went on the bad stretch, and then I headed back over to the launch, knowing that with the amount of boat tournaments they have there, and they dump them back in the water right at the launch, I figured there had to be some bass holding on those docks. The first stretch of 10 or so was nothing, but I thought it got too deep. So I motored a little ways, and I eyeballed shallower water, and I saw some boat lifts. First one I hit, I got to 17 and a half or 17 and a quarter. I think 2 docks later, I got to 16 to fill up my limit. And then another critical moment for me that day after I got my limit was I had saw a big bass come out from under a dock pre-fishing the weekend prior. It was at least a 19. I'm convinced it was bigger than that. It was a big one. And I didn't catch it. I just saw it come out, and then it went back under the dock. But that dock was probably an hour away from where I was. So I wasn't sure, should I gamble, do the Jake Angulas move, go for that one big bass that you figured would be there? Or I thought it was beneficial for me to, in that hour, I'd be able to fish another 10 or 12 docks instead of making that big run. So then I just hit another cove that I remembered set up similar. And at 2:30, the standings were off, but I knew that my 86-inch limit with a 12-incher in there wasn't going to hold up to win. I was actually really happy with 86, but then I realized at that point that I had a shot to win the thing. So I went over to at 2:30. I had a big fish on. It had weight to it, and I thought, oh, here we go. This is the one. This is the 18 plus to really put me in up there, and the hook popped. So I was pretty disappointed there. But then, of course, you guys heard the story. I rolled to my last dock of the day, 3 minutes left. First throw on it, I get hung up on the dock, go in there, undo my hook, and I just wing it over to the other corner of the dock in 19 3/4 with 2 minutes left. So that was it. I mean, it's pretty simple. But I think for me, it was the shallower docks, and you had to get where the walkway met the dock or on the boat lifts. That's where I caught all the fish, either on those 2 parts of the dock. You know, you couldn't just run the face of the docks and throw at the outside. That just wasn't working.
Nice.
That's awesome. Congratulations, dude. That's catching them dirt shallow and on a jig is a blast.
Yeah.
It's cool to hear. Like it sounds like the two of you have like total opposite patterns, which is a really cool thing to see. And to see that you both had, I don't know. Sometimes it just kind of goes to show like it seems like a bite is shallow, and there's always somebody that finds them deep, or vice versa. That's kind of cool, and that's what adds that's what makes it exciting to watch, especially knowing the patterns are different. Which one's going to hold up longer? You never really know, especially in the fall. The fall, I feel like, is that time of year where it's like they might be up shallow or they might not, and sometimes they're up there for seemingly no good reason. Like those cold mornings, like make at least convince me like maybe that the shallow bite's over, and it's like the exact opposite so many times. But that's really cool to hear. So we did. I don't know if we wanted to get into this or not, but we did have to make the tough decision to cancel the first day of this event because of the winds and the forecast. Do you guys feel like that changed your pattern and how you approach the 1 day of competition versus 2, and how did it change it? Jake, we can start with you.
I was kind of mixed reviews on the cancellation. It would have been fun out there fishing in that weather, bouncing around. For what I was doing was scoping with a minnow and shaking a minnow. I would have made it pretty tough for what I was doing. But I kind of wish you had the first day, because I did feel like I had 2 areas that I could put up 90 in. So that was my one thing, was I knew I had enough fish for both days, and I kind of practiced to have 2 days of fish all lined up, ready to go. But I'm also happy you did cancel it. I think it was the right decision to cancel it. It's just not a great time out there trying to battle 1 and 2 footers out there, and that lake sets up where that wind can rip right down the middle of it. And so I think it was a good call.
I think I'm pretty sure, Ken, correct me if I'm wrong here, but I'm pretty sure the wind was like at a certain point in the day, it was set up perfectly to be as bad as it could be on that lake. Right.
Yeah, I mean, it wasn't direct north to south, but I mean, the way the lake is set up, I mean, that wind was kind of cutting across it, but it would have just basically turned and gone straight down the lake. We saw that. We went out on Squans that day, and I mean, it was doing the same thing there.
Yeah.
It was in the same similar direction, and it was just coming straight down that little pond compared to the Candlewood, so it's a tough decision, but when the people that we reached out to and everything, when bass boat guys say that they'd have second thoughts about going out in that kind of weather, that tells us we probably shouldn't be putting guys out there in kayaks and women as well. So definitely a tough call to make, but like we said, at least we had a second day, you know what I mean? So
with like the exact opposite wind.
Right. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Dead calm. I didn't see the water, but yeah, it seemed like it wasn't blowing at all, or very little on Sunday.
What about you, Todd? How do you think it would have gone?
I would have definitely fished docks. And that was the right call. Angler safety should always take, priority. But I think it would have limited the docks I could have fished. Right, because I don't think I would have been able to hit the ones that the wind was blowing right into. Although those may have been better, but it would have been tough because there's some. Obviously, you guys know Candlewood. There's no shortage of docks. There's a stretch where a lot of them were so close together. I could get the kayak right in the middle and fish both docks each side. I was standing up the entire time, and and the XI3 makes it super easy to get in and out of the docks and be able to fish them effectively the way I was doing it, because I really had to sneak my way in there. But as far as the wind, it would have limited which docks I could have fished. Wouldn't have changed that. I would still have fished the docks, but it would have, and I would have had to find another 70 docks to hit the next day.
You don't think they would have reloaded? You don't think?
I don't think so.
No?
They were. If you look at it, I probably caught 1 fish for every 10 docks I hit. So I didn't miss many. So there wasn't a lot of fish on it. I just was fortunate enough that the quality was there for the few fish I did catch.
Very cool.
Were there a lot of other kayakers during the tournament on those docks as well?
I don't think I saw anybody fishing docks in the kayaks. Definitely not how close to the bank that I was. If anybody was hitting docks, they were out in the front of them, which was fine by me.
Did you guys fish north? You launched north, I mean, like at Squance?
We launched at Squancy. I think
How many-
14 of us, Jake, were there maybe.
Yeah, there
There
were
was
a lot.
quite a few. Most of the field.
It's interesting. It's interesting. I wondered how many people were going to fish down south. When you went down to Jake, just a curiosity thing. I've only fished there one time. Did you go into the Echo Bay? Was there any grass over there?
I didn't look for it at all. I
No?
just so little of it left from the carp.
Yeah.
And spraying and whatever else they're doing down there. So I just didn't even, it wasn't even in my game plan to look for grass. So I just go up in the water and went and looked.
Nice. Yeah, I was just curious. I know there was some grass over there when KBF was here a few years back. So
Yeah.
Jake, you said you were shaking a minnow. I'm curious because now there's 10,000 minnow baits available now. What were you throwing and what's your setup?
So I had 3 minnows on.
I figured it'd be more than one.
Yeah. If you know, it feels like you have to have a couple options. It all depends on how deep they are and what they want that day. So I had the Fish Arrow fish roller, the 5-inch one. And then I had a Sakamata shad, the 5-inch one. And then I had the Drift Fry, and that was the 4-inch one. And then I had the Drift Fry on a 4-gram head. The Sakamata was on a 1/2 ounce head. And then the Fish Arrow, I want to say, was also on a 1/2 ounce head. Yeah.
For those, because this is kind of a newer thing. For those that aren't familiar, how are you fishing that? Because when you say, a lot of people say I was shaking it over their heads. You're not vertical jigging that, right?
No, you cast it out and you sink it down to them, and then you're almost like snapping your rod tip, kind of, and it's throwing slack in your line, and it makes the bait roll back and forth. Certain baits roll better. You can put different jig heads to help them roll, but every single that I was casting at was different. Some of them wanted it rolling. Other ones wanted it just like a really slow reel above them. So like you just kind of have to fit on the fly to figure out how they wanted it. So like some of them wanted like you had to shake it super hard. And I'm throwing on a 7.3 3-power Dobbins Champion HP spinning rod, 15-pound braid to like a 12-pound leader. And then on my 5-gram head, I was throwing that. That's the Depths head. It's the Depth. I don't know the name of the head, but it's the Depths head. And I was throwing that on 10-pound line, 10-pound braid, and that's was a Dobbins Ecstasy 753. So a little bit lighter just because it's a smaller hook, and I didn't want to bend it out. I did catch some hanging a minnow, but these fish are very smart and very educated, I'd say, out there. So a lot of followers. It took a lot to get them to commit. And when they'd commit, they'd eat it really good, which was good. But a lot of followers. I mean, if you didn't shake it perfectly, they wouldn't eat it. Or if you shook it too much, they wouldn't eat it. They were very smart fish, very educated fish. And then I was trying to hang a minnow over their heads, and they'd come up and just bump it, and you'd feel them bump it, miss them. But then I caught some hanging the minnow too, and they were big ones, but very few actually ate it when it was directly over their heads. But every time you went over the top of them, they'd all come up and look at the bottom of your boat. Every single time. They were very hard to get the bite when they came to look at the bottom of your boat.
Wow.
Yeah.
It's crazy.
I mean, that was one of the things we heard early on about Candlewood, right? Is like Candlewood. What is it? We're talking to Ted, weren't we? We were talking to Ted, and he's like, it's the only place to fish in Connecticut, so it just gets a ton of pressure.
Yeah.
So, I mean, that's kind of crazy to hear that, though, that they're kind of wising up that much.
Oh,
That's pretty neat.
Yeah. Nice.
All right, we got any other questions?
We got Bruce, no dog bite all week.
Checks out. All right, so I guess we can talk about another award we gave out, Angler of the Year. Congratulations, Jake. Second Angler of the Year with EKF. One of the things I was curious about that I thought would be an interesting conversation, in particular about this season, how did you go about preparing for a season like this with bodies of water that aren't typically on let's say a trail schedule? Like, how do you approach that, new bodies of water and kind of just different, I don't know if it's like crazy different, but bodies of water that we don't typically go to?
Yeah, just looked at the schedule all, and normally I just start with just general Google searches of the places, YouTube, and this is all in the off season, like, so right when you guys drop your schedule, start looking. And it was actually kind of nice that there was a lot of new lakes on here. It's kind of a fresh start, which I really like. Sometimes going into places with a lot of history is not the best, because you have ideas in your head like, oh, I caught him here, or I caught him here. And when I'm going to a fresh place, clean slate, I think I fish a lot better, just because I'm really letting my brain help me find the fish, and I'm not trying to search for something in the past. So normally I start just looking on Google Earth, trying to figure out how the lake lays out. And then I'm looking at the depth chart, whether it's man-made, natural. And then I'm trying to figure out like what the dominant species is, whether it be largemouth or smallmouth. So sometimes going into it, I'm like, man, there's some great largemouth fishing here. I'm probably going to go target those. So like the Kennebec, very little information. It looked like probably the largemouth were going to be the winning fish up there. That's what I chased the whole time I was there. I very little looked at smallmouth up there. And then Sagadaga, based off a couple of forums, it was just like, yeah, there's no largemouth in here, or very few. So I knew the whole time I'm just going to go look for small. So stuff like that, just getting a general lay of the lake and going into every lake game plan and trying to stick to that game plan, but being willing to just scrap it all and start over. I mean, there's days where I'll start with 10 rods on my deck, and then halfway through the day, I cut everything off, tie them all with new baits because nothing's working. So just starting over and being willing to adjust on the fly definitely helps a lot.
Yeah, I thought it was really, you mentioned earlier, like listening to a podcast, like an old podcast. I don't think I would have ever thought of that one.
Yeah.
I listened to some fishing podcasts, but I don't think I'd ever think about like getting intel that way, or just like getting information about a place that way. That's really cool. Yeah, and Candlewood, and it makes sense though. Candlewood's a well-known place. There's been big events on Candlewood. So I mean, it makes sense. But what was your favorite place to fish this year?
I like Sagadaga a lot. I mean, there was just a ton of fish there, and I caught a ton of fish. I had a great time there. And they were eating a jerkbait better than I've probably ever seen. So I had a great time, just because I'm not a great jerkbait fisherman. I put a lot of time into fine-tuning it, but it's not my favorite way to fish. But down there, it was just like, oh, man, this is the deal. Like, I got to throw it all away. So that was really fun, and just catching, 100 fish a day was just a blast. And so that was one of my favorites. And it was new, and there was no information on it. So it kind of felt like it was untapped.
Yeah, for sure. And I think the amount of fish caught kind of speak to that. I think it did take the highest of any of our tournaments, right? And it beat Cayuga, which was like over 100 people in the event signed up for that one. So, Todd, what about you? What was your favorite of this season?
That's a tough. Really, probably fishing wise, was the Kennebec, just because of how great, the tournament day was for me, size and numbers. But I'll tell you, a sleeper one that I really enjoyed was not a sleeper, but the St. Lawrence, I think simply because we were there when the elites were there, and I was really close to Rick Clunn for a while. I saw him throwing a spinner bait when I'm trying to fish in 40 feet of, with a drop shot, and I'm watching him catch him with a spinner bait up shallow. And then Seth Fighter ran by me a bunch of times and he waved and all that stuff. So that, as far as that goes, that was pretty neat to be on the same waters as those guys fishing a tournament at the same time was pretty cool, I thought. But as fishing wise was probably the Kennebec,
Yeah. Yeah, that's true. The St. Lawrence was the cool part of it, is like every time we'd go to a ramp, we'd see a different truck, It's cool. You see that stuff on TV, but
yeah, it was cool to go to the takeoff in the morning and then literally see all of the anglers who, run YouTube channels, basically doing their intros with their families. Like, they're normal people too, but it's just, it's cool to see them in their element, right? And they just watch them, Rip and Mercer, saying the goodbyes. And that was a lot of fun. That was cool.
Yeah, for sure. So as we talk about, so Jake, I think it's funny that you were talking about how you enjoyed fishing the new bodies of water this year, and then I got thinking about next season. It's like the exact opposite. So how do you make that adjustment coming off of this year, going into next year, going back to the old, the old honey holes, so to speak, the places we're familiar with? How do you make that adjustment now, and how do you battle with the historical stuff you're talking about? Because I think that's really important, and it's something that, like, I think everyone has a spot that one fish from like 7 years ago keeps you going back to. There's been nothing there since, right? But you still check it. So how do you battle that, especially with some of these places like Champlain? I know we've been to multiple times in EKF, and then KBF's been there as well. Like, how are you going to grapple with that coming off of this year?
Add another day of pre-fishing probably to some of these events, so that you can just go out and check all that stuff and get it out of your head, or say, oh man, they're still here, I'm just gonna go catch them.
Yeah, they can be really quick then. Yeah. And Todd, what are you thinking about next year? I know you fished a season. This is your second season with us, so you would have fished the season before, which had a bunch of these on it as well. Do you have anything that's going to be kind of tough for you to go away from or to try out, or is it going to be like, oh, no problem, I'm ready to clean slate this thing? I
think, like, for Cayuga, I know where my strengths are, so I have areas in mind, and I did find there last season. Champlain, I have quite a bit of time up on the northern part where you guys had it last year. Depending on where your boundaries are going to be for it this year, that'll be how much. But I just kind of look for the weeds and the grass and that in the shallow water, because that's my my strongest way to catch fish. So,
did we tell? Have we announced yet that the railroad trestle is off limits for Cayuga?
Yeah.
Oh, we haven't mentioned that yet.
I was not one of the 40 people on that trestle tournament day. Trust me.
I'm only kidding, but I figured I'd scare a few people now.
I decided to finally go up there for a tournament. I think it was the Hobie event, and it was dead. It was like when I rolled up, like there was like 3 people there. I was like, "Oh, come on, man!"
That it's quite the scene, if nothing else. Like,
yeah. And I've always avoided it for that reason. And this time I was like, I don't have anything going on anywhere else, so let me go up there, and it wasn't happening.
The real shame is, like, there's a lot. I really like that area of the lake, and I don't fish the railroad trestle. Like, it's just kind of, I don't know. But anyway, we don't have to dissect that one too much. But yeah, I thought it'd be fun. The honey hole would be off. But yeah, so speaking of next season, though, we are planning to announce the dates really soon. We have them mostly finalized. We're just figuring out our plan for how we're going to share it out in a way that builds excitement. So working on that. What's that?
We just got our first permit approved at 602.
Did we?
Yeah. Cayuga. So
hey, throw it out there.
May 3rd?
May 3rd, Cayuga. There you go. A little sneak peek for everybody. May 3rd.
Yeah, Jake's already typing in Google. yeah, Google Earth right now.
It's we're looking forward to it. Excited to get back to it. Cayuga is just an awesome place. It if nothing else, it's a destination fishery for people to check off their list for these events. Yeah, plenty. If you're not familiar with Cayuga, just plenty of resources to be found on why people get excited about Cayuga. So,
Yeah,
I do want to go back. I wish we could. You know me. I like Jake. I like going to new places. And I wish in the future, people will look back and go, you know what, Kennebec was pretty good. Sagadaga was pretty good. Connecticut River, same deal. Both of them in Massachusetts and up in New Hampshire.
The numbers
weren't putting up 90 inches. You know what I mean? But they were good events. So
put up 90 fish instead.
Yeah, keep that in mind, folks.
So here in that, let's get some reactions. Jake, what do you think?
Think of what?
For the date, May 3rd.
Oh, I think it's a great time here to be there. We're gonna smash them. It's gonna take 100 plus probably. We're right there at it. It's gonna be a great time. I'm already looking forward to it.
All right, Todd, what do you think? You getting live scope for this one?
I don't think I would use it for there.
No,
for the first, not that time of year at that place, but I will probably. It's like I said, some point I'll have live scope, and we'll see if I have the patience to learn it or not.
There may be a time though where somebody figures the smallies out that time of year.
You never know.
Hasn't happened yet.
No,
I want to just see. I want to bring it there just to see stuff. See the spots that I've been fishing with just regular sonar for a while. Just get a better look at it. That'd be cool. You don't need you can use live scope. You can use live scope in 10 feet.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. So I mean,
I have that on. I've said it before. I have that on 99% of the time. I just like seeing what's in front of me. Look at even Bruce Levy.
Really?
Talked trash for how many years?
Does he have it?
He talked trash with a motor.
He got it?
Yeah.
I think Bruce just talks trash about everything.
Until he gets it. Yeah, I mean, that's fine.
Typical Massachusetts.
How long did it take him to get a motor? He talked so much trash about that.
Yeah.
He can get him going.
All right. Something.
He comes around.
Yeah, he figures it out.
Funny story. I told these guys yesterday, or I told them today, but yesterday, MAKB had a fall brawl, and I was fishing this tiny body of water, and there was way too many people on it, kind of bummed. But I was catching fish left and right, and at one point I heard a guy in a kayak say to another guy in a kayak in this heavy Boston accent, "Oh, that dude's using live scope. He's catching all." I'm like, funny thing is, I had zero. I didn't have any electronics on my boat. I was on my inflatable, and when he said that, the other guys, he's got live scope. I don't even mess with that stuff. But people equate to catching a lot of fish to having live scope. So I just thought that was funny.
And that's saying something though. That's also saying something that live scope has is crossed over to that segment, I guess, of the fishing population that doesn't really. I don't know. I get to see it. The fact that they know what live scope is, I think, is just saying something about its arrival. Being his presence in the sport. So
right. Coming from a guy who I heard him say to his other friend, "Yeah, the most money I ever spent on a lure was on a Vision 110. I spent $20 on that thing." So
where do you get one for $20?
I don't know.
Maybe a discontinued pattern. Who knows? That's pretty hilarious. You're gonna see. I mean, you do see him on crawdads and stuff now occasionally, but what do we got? Any upgrades coming this year? So Todd, you said you might get it, you may not, but Jake, what about your kayak? You got any upgrades planned for the off season?
I'm gonna rebuild my whole boat. I'm gonna start on a fresh boat, and we're gonna build it out again. So excited to make some small tweaks. Nothing major. Not gonna get running a new canoe unlimited again. Don't know about what I'm doing with trolling motor yet.
No motor guide.
No motor guide, so I think we'll keep the motor guide as a backup, but I think we're going to be looking to go 24 volt. Kind of similar electronic setup. Might run a little bit different stuff, but very similar electronic setup to what I ran this whole season. I think I got it pretty dialed in to what I like. So
And I think we talked about that at the beginning of the season, right? Like your electronic setup. And so has that stayed your setup throughout the season, or did you make any adjustments?
My 360 wire broke, so I ended up not running it for the last couple of events just because it was broken and I didn't want to tear my boat apart halfway through the season. So I haven't been running the 360. Still running the Humminbird for the mapping. And then I bought a 1222 GPS map for my live scope unit from my 10-inch. So running a 12 in the center now, which it's pretty nice. Took a little while to get used to just because everything's a little bit bigger on it. So a lot of the stuff that was like small looks a lot bigger on the 12-inch. So you're casting a lot of small fish, but didn't take me too long to adjust to, and got that one all fine-tuned in. So it's pretty nice.
Dang, 12-inch screen. Holy.
Yeah, I'm curious who's going to be the first one to run an MBT Marine.
Oof. Thought of it.
Get a 16.
Yep.
Like there'll be no spot lock strong enough. You're just gonna be like fighting. It's gonna be a sail, like just pulling you around. You just turn it into the wind if your motor dies. I mean, there could be some advantage to it. But then, I mean, God, I hope people don't do that. Like, if we have to start doing like a screen limit, like, what are we doing? We don't. I don't think we have to do that. But and so you ran one of all three, right? Jay, the big three brands, I should say. So Minn Kota, Lowrance, and Garmin. Very cool. Humminbird. What did I say? What did I just Garmin? Wait. Anyway, yeah. But so okay, so the big three though. Yeah. That's pretty neat. Yeah. That would drive me crazy though. I'm not that good with electronics as it is. I feel old when it comes to that. But I did get Active Target this year. Did get it figured out by the end of the year. So that was fun.
You can catch them just as good on Active Target. I have Active Target on my boat, and I can catch them just as good. There's small times where the Garmin is a lot better, but very, very few times. So don't think the old systems are out of date. You can catch them just as good if you know what you're doing with them. Yeah,
I'm curious to see what people are thinking of the new like budget Lowrance, the was it Eagle Vision or something, whatever they're calling it.
Eagle Eye,
yeah. Yeah, I'm curious. Like somebody said it's like a really scaled back version, but I don't know if that's the case or not. I didn't follow it too much, but I saw somebody in one of my Facebook groups just got it. They're gonna follow up with how it is, but I don't know. But it's like it's never been easier. Now you can for $1,000 you can get some level of forward facing with the unit. That's a pretty darn good deal. It's like what's the size screen? 7 or 9 inch, I think, but for $1,000, not bad.
Yeah,
I think those are just the hook units that used to be formerly the hook. Now they're But that's cool. Definitely, well, not for that one in particular, but I'll definitely be on the lookout during Black Friday this year and the holidays and stuff, seeing what I can find for upgrades for next year. But
yeah,
what are you leaning towards, Todd? If you're going to go with a forward facing, which one do you think you're going to go with?
I would get the Garmin because right now I have the Echo Maps. I have a 9-inch and a 7. I got the 9-inch this year with anticipation of you getting the live scope for it in the future. I actually had the 10-inch, but the 10-inch cradle is metal, and you would be surprised how much weight that adds. I like to have them on the side on the gunnels. Well, when I put both of them on the one side the first time, the kayak's like listing over on it. So I had to relocate to the center. I ended up just sending that one back and getting the 9 because I think the 9's probably big enough, for how I would use it. I'm going to have to redo the wiring too because I'm going to have to figure out another spot for another bigger battery because I think that the live scope's going to eat batteries quite a bit, right?
It's not too bad.
I think it's like 1.5 amps per hour.
Well, yeah,
24 amp hour work.
Okay.
And I do get interference too from my motor to my transducer wiring, so I'm trying to deal with that. So I've got some work to do.
The never-ending battle that is wiring in a kayak. It never ends. Like you'll figure one thing out, and then gotta love it. But then adding my this is the first year I've ran like a dedicated black pack that's all batteries, the black box for Active Target, and it's really cool to have like all in one box, but it's also a real pain in the ass to bring that thing everywhere because it is heavy. Like I had like a hand truck with me to kind of wheel it over to the ramp. It was bad, but it's fun. It's good to have it all in one place. But yeah. What about anybody else on this call? John, Ken, Chris, any upgrades? Chris, I know you got a new old big rig.
Yeah. No, I'm gonna stick with the same. Although I'm just gonna figure out a way to mount my active target because, as you know, the device on which I have it attached to now is not very good, and so I will be coming up with something this off season. So
yeah, different mount option. I'll be doing the same.
Everything else is probably going to be very similar to how I have it now.
Nice. Ken,
I think.
sorry, John.
Sorry, you go, Ken.
Yeah, I'm curious. Any upgrades?
No, not really. I'll probably put the power pole back on. It's been a couple of years since I've had one on the kayak, and I miss it. But yeah, I don't think I'm going to change much else. I need to get a kayak for the Susky because I can't bring the Nar there. It's way too big and dangerous. So I don't know what that'll be. Might be a Sun Dolphin at this point. I don't know. Something. I'm serious. I'm dead serious. Maybe not a Sun Dolphin, but I'm dead serious contemplating just like a little sit-in, something small.
Just get the inflatable.
Yeah, that's so expensive though. I'm afraid of putting holes in it. You know what I mean? How many holes have you put in yours?
Well, one of them was my fault, and I dropped it 4 feet straight down on a pointed 2x4. But hey, I patched it, and it's holding.
Yeah, but
that's a 1 in a million shot too, by the way.
It was and it was to create a display for EKF at the expo. So
little blooper behind the scenes. Yeah, behind the scenes blooper of the expo.
And that never happened.
I think I'm waiting for Mountain Road Trading Post to get some XTRs in. I think I'm going to transition to the XTR.
We have one.
Yeah, you have the demo one, right?
Yep.
Yeah.
What do you think, Jake? You got to see it in person now. What are you thinking?
It's a cool boat. I'm excited to see what people think of it. I haven't got it on the water yet, so I don't really have a major opinion on it yet, but I'm excited to see it.
Is it rigged up in the shop or just the boat?
It's the boat. It's lighting in it and stuff like that, but nothing major on it.
I've seen pictures, and it seems like how long is it?
13.
12. Yeah.
It seems like the seat's too far back, and then if you move it, like there's no real room in the back for like a black pack and stuff.
Yeah, there's room behind you, but there's a ton of room in front of you, so I feel like you have to move your gear around to kind of accommodate that boat, where it's normally like weighed out like this, balance it. But it seems like you can definitely make it how you want it to be, but you might have to run a little bit smaller of a black pack, but you have all the room under the hatch in the front. So it's a cool boat. I'm excited to see. I'm really excited to see if it can handle the big water, just with the shape of the boat, and how high that casting deck is, how much your trolling motor is going to shoot out of water every time you go for big waves. That'd be my one concern if you're running the standard 36-inch trolling motor that most people own already.
Do you think it'll be trouble just for like how, because I feel like one of the things people deal with really early on when they get a motor guide is the balance in the boat, right? Like with the batteries, like having, if you have a big motor in the front, big battery in the back type of thing. But this seems like one of the things I'm concerned about it, even is no matter how big the front of this kayak is going to be, the way they have it set up with the front storage, I feel like you're going to, at least early on, you're going to have a lot of front heavy versions of this kayak. Like I'm really curious how the front stays up or doesn't with all that weight.
Yeah, it's definitely a concern, especially if the people they've never experienced weighting a kayak perfectly or knowing when your kayak is weighted well. But we'll see.
Yeah. It's I haven't seen it in person, but for the pictures, this one, you get a lot of people that are always complaining and saying that, what we fish out of, it's not a kayak, it's a boat. But this one looks like it's kind of crossed that line to where it's very close, or it's getting closer to like a John boat style. It kind of looks like that just from the pictures I've seen in the videos. Do you think that we'll get to a point where, maybe that's what we are running, all of us? It's not a kayak, it's not a John boat. It's kind of like a hybrid, you know?
Yeah, I mean, at that point, it's like you might as well be in a crawdad,
Right.
or that, or like those. What are those big pontoon boats that they used to sell at Pro? The big plastic.
Yeah, prowlers or something.
Oh yeah.
It kind of reminded me of like a more, that, with more weight in the front. I mean, I think it's cool. It's definitely a cool concept. We'll see if it takes off or not.
Yeah, it's interesting. Looks neat.
I have
Looks-
plans. I have a lot of plans for that thing already.
Yeah.
I'm excited for it.
Now, who could step? Like, could I step on the front deck without that kite? You remember Shallow Hal, that movie, where the girl's in the back, or she's in the front?
Yeah.
Would
The canoe,
that
yeah,
happen,
yeah.
Like if I stepped on that front deck, you know?
I don't know. That's a lot of plastic to push down. I don't know. I mean, you saw Chad Hoover doing it.
The plastic seems pretty rugged. What do you think, Jake? How's that decking feel? Does that feel like it's actually gonna be strong?
Yeah, it feels like they did a much better job with the overall plastic quality of that boat. But then again, you're going to be loading a lot of gear into this boat. Most people are going to be putting a lot of stuff on this. I wish there was a little bit more track on it for mounting stuff off to the either side of you for like live scope poles and stuff. A little bit more track on the side would help, I think. And then that was like the big thing I saw. They have like the threaded inserts for like the Yak Attack mounts.
Lock and load.
Yeah, the lock and load mounts. So like, but then you're kind of limited to only running Yak Attack stuff instead of just running a big long piece of track down the whole length of the boat, so that you can put stuff anywhere. So I feel like you're kind of limited on a secondary mounting. That was my one thing I noticed with it. Definitely, is a little bit more track would help, but you can always add it. You can always add it. But
Now that you say that, I can probably come up with something.
yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Throw it up on tackletech3d.com.
Oh yeah.
Shameless plug.
What was that, John? I didn't get that.
It is tackletech3d.com.
3D. Wow. Okay. sounds like we're prepared for that, but not quite. Yeah, it's really gonna be cool to see that, and I don't know. And then the other thing that I guess I'll comment on is the 2025 Pro Angler that I don't know, made some really good updates, but then left that pesky pedal drive, and it's got me a little confused. But I don't know. Would you guys see that, and what do you think about that one?
From what I understand, it's just a more motorizable version of the Pro Angler.
It says it's built better too, like built. It's reinforced hull, not a stronger hull, because that would imply they were not strong before. Yes, a reinforced hull.
Yeah.
I don't know. I think it's funny, like all the. I mean, it's the back of it's kind of neat that they did like that. You can have the 2 power poles and a motor on it. But yeah, it just feels silly that they made all those upgrades and kept the pedal drive. I feel like that could have resolved probably a lot of their warranty issues if they had a model without it. I was thinking like they have like the 360, and then they have like the Pro Anglers without a pedal drive, like after that, instead of the 180. But
I don't think Hobie would ever go away from the Mirage drive.
I mean, I get it. I get it, but and I do have the plugs, so
yeah, they sell the plugs.
Yeah. Anyway, does anyone else have any thoughts on that one, on the Hobie, or is it just kind of like a
Hobie? So I didn't even look at it.
I saw the video. It just seemed like they are making it easier for the people that are buying it to not have to go out and buy aftermarket parts from other companies. So they put the firewall or the plate in the front to put your live scope box on, which was like people were going out aftermarket buying that stuff. Same thing with like the access plates. People are going out set aftermarket. So it kind of feels like they updated it to where you don't have to buy as many aftermarket parts. I don't know how much the price went up. I didn't look at that.
Oh gosh, yeah, I didn't look either.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say. But that thing's going to be $6,000.
Yeah.
Well, are those the 360s or are those just the 1.8? I'm sure they both get the updates, but
Yeah, I think updates.
interesting.
So it's kind of cool that after you buy a $5,000 boat, that now you don't have to go scramble and buy parts.
Right.
That's good.
So it's kind of nice like coming out of the box with all the parts.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, I was gonna say because like last year when I had a PA 14, it was like immediately like $300 in like adapters and like between the Yak Attack A-Trail adapters and the catch mount. I don't even remember all the things that I got, but yeah, just a bunch of stuff like then the crossbar and all that. Yeah, that's something that's I don't know, a good update, I think. But it seems like their quality's been improving too, which is good. The kayaks in general, it seems like that. Knock on wood, I did make it through a season without any issues of kayak issues of my own. So it was nice. Then I'll have to change kayaks mid-season. But yeah. All right. We're almost at the hour mark. Do you guys have any other questions? Or are we ready to wrap it up? What do we think?
I think we're ready to wrap it up.
There you go.
So, sorry.
Sorry, go ahead.
Were you gonna do that? What were you gonna say? You go first, and then if you don't say what I was gonna say, I'll say it.
Well, I was gonna give Todd and Jake a chance to give shout outs and thanks to whoever sponsors or whatever. But what were you gonna do, Ken?
I was gonna mention that in 2 weeks we'll talk about next season. Hopefully we'll have the schedule finalized, the dates finalized, and we'll have a 2025 discussion.
Yes, we're trying to get it like all of the 2025 announcements and stuff just done because that's something that if we don't get it done right now, we head into the holidays, time flies pretty quick. We all get busy.
Sure.
So, yeah. But before we go, so we'll do that in our next one in a couple of weeks. But before we go, Todd, Jake, is there anyone you want to thank? Todd, we'll start with you. If there are any sponsors, people you want to thank, shout outs, whichever you'd like.
Yeah, I'd just like to thank you guys for running a great trail. Looking forward to next year, and obviously thank my wife for helping me out with all this and we keep making all these trips happen. And yeah, it's been a fun season and looking forward to one that's even more fun next year.
Awesome. Well, congrats, Todd. It was
Thank
awesome. Congrats on the win and congrats on the championship. It was cool seeing your success this year for sure. Jake, shout outs, thanks, sponsor shout outs, whatever you'd like.
Just want to thank you guys. You guys ran a great trail. The giveaways were phenomenal. Very well ran. Great decision making throughout the year. I had a great time. Want to thank New Canoe, Enduro Power, Sniper Marine, Dobbins Rods, and for anyone who likes ice fishing, Circle Tackle. They make a great ice rod. So upcoming, ice is coming. Hopefully not too much. I feel like trips. So, but if you are looking to get some ice fishing stuff, they sell all the little tungsten jigs and they make a really, really good custom ice rod that's not super overpriced.
Very cool. Very cool. Well, thanks a lot, everybody. Appreciate you tuning in. And you guys have anything? John, Ken, Chris, any shout outs?
Have a wonderful evening, ladies and gentlemen.
Have a great couple of weeks. We'll talk to you soon with some 2025 news. Thanks, everybody.
Take it easy.
See you guys.